Hello, second grade. Welcome back for this week's for our last lesson for this week, the main lesson before we go into reviewing all we need to review for the test on Friday. Today we're going to look at estimating and comparing measurements. All right. So this is a video to kind of help you guide what you need to know to complete today's Desmos activity. So make sure you watch this because you can't just complete it without knowing. All right. So let's get started. So before we can fully dive into comparing estimations, we got to first realize what does it mean to estimate and what does it mean to round measurements. All right, sometimes people do this, we round and we estimate measurements because we always don't need an exact measurement. And sometimes it's easier to use whole numbers or halves compared to using 3/4 of an inch, right? Because when we look at this, how long this dice is, we see that it is 1 3/4 of an inch. All right. We know this because this is a fourth, this is a half, 3/4. All right. So 1 3/4 of an inch. Okay. But when it comes to estimating and rounding, maybe we don't want to use 3/4. It's too specific. We just kind of want to give an estimate. All right. An approximate. So when looking at this dice, if we're just looking at it, not completely counting fully, we see that it is about. When we estimate and we round, we say it's about. About is a really good term to make sure other people know you're estimating. So it is about 2 inches or about 1.5 inch, right? These are easier numbers to represent or to say than 1 3/4 inch, okay? This is just a way that we can estimate or round. Some people like to round up. Some people like to round down. If we're rounding up, we're rounding to 2 inches. If we're rounding down, we're rounding to 1.5. All right. So when it comes to estimating, there's a lot of correct answers, so to say. Obviously, about 5 inches is not a correct answer, but there is a gray area when it comes to estimating where a lot of answers can be accepted to estimate. All right. There's an exact answer. All right. There's not only one way to estimate or one number we can estimate. All right, so let's kind of practice how we can round up and round down, and then how we can compare that, okay? All right, so in this example, we're gonna round up. We're gonna practice rounding up. So when we're measuring this iPhone I see in inches, we know that the exact measurement is 4 3/4 of an inch, okay? But again, we're like, I don't wanna use 3/4, I wanna be exact. We're gonna round. So if I was just eyeballing it, I say, and we're rounding up though, right? We're not rounding down. We're not going to round less than 3/4 because that would be rounding down. But we're going to round up. And 3/4 is closer to 5. All right. Is it because if we round to 4.5, that's rounding down or to 4. But we're going to round up. And the closest number to that would be 5. So this iPhone is about 5 inches. Okay, so that's how we can round up. We go to the closest higher number. Okay, let's practice rounding down. Okay, so when we round down, we see here, and it's a little wonky because the ruler's facing this way, but the zero's here, right? And we say that we're at 4 inches. This would be 4.5. This would obviously be 4 3/4 of an inch. All right, we're doing a lot of 3/4. So again, we don't want to use this, but we're going to round down. And if we were rounding up, we would go to 5 inches. But since we're rounding down, um, it's going to be closer to about 4.5 inches. If you said 4, I wouldn't mark it wrong. Okay, that's still rounding down. But 4.5 is more accurate and still easier to estimate than it is to say 4 3/4, right? Or even like 4 and like 1/16. Or that's just too specific. We want to just be ballpark, um, more broad. All right. So if you said 4 inches, I wouldn't mark it wrong because that would still be rounding down. You'd still be rounding. But to go up and say 5, that would be rounding up because its original is 4 3/4. So to round down, you'd go less than. I would say personally 4.5 because I think that's the closest but easiest representation, the easiest estimate. It's about 4.5 inches, right? All right, so let's work on comparing. All right, so this is a lot what you're going to work on in Desmos, okay? So we're going to compare now. Now that we know how to estimate, now that we know how to get a ballpark idea, now let's compare, right? And in these word sentences, I estimate for you, okay? And you can even look for yourself and see like, yeah, that's a pretty good estimate. Maybe she's rounding up, maybe she's rounding down. All right, but here I'm going to have you work solely on comparing, okay? So let's read it. If you round the orange pen, okay, to 5 inches, and let's see, it's not exactly 5, but it is close to 5, so we're going to round it up to 5. Um, and then round the black marker to 8 inches. If we go over here, we see that it's over 7.5, but close enough to 8. We're going to round it to 8 inches. About how much longer is the black marker than the orange pen? Show your work. All right, so let's make an area for us to show our work. All right, so we know that the black marker is 8 inches and the orange pen is 5. So we know which one's bigger, right? 8 or 5. We know 8's bigger, so we're going to write 8, 8 inches. Oops. And we're going to subtract, right? We kind of talked about this in our lesson yesterday, and you practiced this yesterday. We're going to subtract the 5 inches to get an estimate about how much longer the black pen is from the orange pen. All right, so if we subtract, not add, 8 minus 5, you can use whatever tool you like. I like to use my hands because I can represent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3. So we get 3 inches. And we can also say that the black marker is 3 inches longer. Is about, how about we say about, right? Is about, because we're estimating, 3 inches longer than the orange pen. All right, and there's our number sentence too. All right, so that's how we can compare estimations, right? Because we estimated from the beginning. I estimated for you, but then we're estimating about how much longer the black pen is from the orange pen. All right, so you're going to do a lot of that today. All right, so let's talk about what we're going to do for the rest of today. All right, so for the rest of today, you're just going to complete your Desmos activity. I'll be available to have any help during that. Again, there's always the extra games provided on SplashLearn that you can practice. And then you got to make sure to tune in tomorrow for the review session to best prepare for Friday's test, okay? I really want you all to do well. And good luck in the Desmos, and I will be here if you need me, okay? Bye, second grade.